Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. It's been a few months since our last video, the Montana Shakedown trip video, and we had a great time on that trip. Learned a lot about how we use the vehicle and all the intricacies of where we've put everything and how the solar was going to perform and so on. But we didn't have heat, and some nights got really cold in September there, end of September, and you just bundle up and deal with it. But warm campers are happy campers, and so it's time to get the heater stuff going. Now with winter here in Saskatchewan, we're in minus 30 degree weather most days, and the truck doesn't fit in the garage anymore, so that makes it really difficult to do some of these tasks. But I thought we should get to it, get some progress going again. So without further ado, let's talk about the heating system. So this is the Espar D2, the Hydronic D2. It's a diesel-fired engine coolant heater, and they're very typical on large diesel equipment, semi-trailers, tractors rather, and well-equipped pickup trucks. If you have a diesel in minus 30 degree weather, they're very hard to start, and so these are very common for that purpose. Now my plan had always been to multi-purpose this heating system to heat not only the engine, but a heat exchanger to heat hot water, and put it through a radiator and a fan to heat the air in the cabin in the back. And that has the excellent side effect of having redundancy. So should this unit ever fail, or if we happen to be driving down the highway, I can use the engine heat to heat water or the cabin in the back. And so that's great. That adds a lot of complexity though, because you need to have valves, which is not so hard. I've got a bunch of these electric ball valves and they're really slick, but the complexity of manifolds to plumb all that where it needs to go, along with the cost of the radiator and fan and so on to heat the air, tied in with everything needs to be very localized to one area. Hoses and tubes and hot air and diesel and electricity all going every which way can get convoluted and messy. And so for simplicity's sake, and as well as redundancy, we also have the Espar D2, which is the Airtronic diesel-fired air heater. And so this is super simple. 12 volts in to run the little fan blower motor and diesel, and it puts out 2 kilowatts of heat. So that's an excellent piece of kit. Hope to get that installed today, actually. So without further ado, let's go try and fit this into the truck. Okay, we are now in the truck. This is the wheel well underneath the sink on the passenger side of the vehicle, and this air heater has intake and exhaust ports, obviously, and they get very hot, obviously. And for that reason, Everlanders provides this plate, which you're to mount and then cut anything flammable away from that area. So putting it in the floor is a possibility. I could trim that and get that to fit in there. But why? You're perfectly permissible to mount this on its side. So I'm gonna go right into the aluminum wheel well there. And that has a benefit of, should I change my mind or it was a horrible mistake, I can just weld those closed again. So without further ado, I've used my trusty Princess Auto digital scribe and marked out the positions here. This is the Diablo brand hole saw, but look how the saw moves relative to the center point. So I just drilled a hole in the garage there, and it's terrible. I expect nothing better. But that's okay, because the hole is, or rather this bit is slightly undersized for what I needed. Oh, if you seat it all the way, it works much better. Terrible. Okay, that was a disaster. This Diablo brand hole saw, although it has a slick feature of this collar you can pull back to eject the saw part and clean out your plug. It's probably fine for carpentry in wood, but the saw is so it's terrible. It was horrendous. So that was a big disaster. It mostly didn't work, but then I got out the carbide burr, mounted in the drill, and just tweaked the holes a little bit to fit, as you can see there. And yeah, so she fits in there now, just like so. I'm going to use this same awesome product, which I highly don't endorse. I'm just going to punch a hole here, and might as well run the wiring while I'm in here. Okay, so I got the heater itself installed there and the wiring running to the back there. Mostly pretty clean, but we'll clean that up later. So I'll save you guys the monotony of wiring. Suffice it to say, the heater is there, the wires run against the right side of the vehicle, down the wall, into the floor, across the conduit underneath. It's just strapped to that, and then it comes up here, up the wire track, positive. It's this really slick fuse holder, and the ground is here. And the other wire I just terminated is this one, and that goes to the thermostat unit. And so all that's left to do is put the terminal to the power and put in the fuse. Okay, this is quite honestly the first time I've ever started this thing. Let's give it a try. No, there we go. Didn't push hard enough. Just heard a click over there. Okay, it took a few attempts to start, and that was because the fuel line to the pump wasn't primed, and so it gave an error code saying no flame, and it couldn't start the furnace. But after 3 attempts, or rather 3 power cycles, it got the fuel primed on its own, and it's chugging away, putting out a ton of heat here. Well, I would have liked to have this more buttoned up before posting it, but it's too cold to work outside and finish up the plumbing underneath, so that's where it's going to stay for now. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Marcel and Andrea for letting me park the truck in their back parking spot here over the winter. It's been really handy to have the truck close to the garage since it doesn't fit into the garage anymore. And so yeah, let's take a tour of how she's doing. So looking at the thermal imagery, we can see the muffler hanging down there, and the side panels are radiating some of the heat from the inside. But if we put the crosshairs on the middle there, we can see it's at -14 and the rest of the environment's at -22. So it's not a huge differential. The exhaust is at 160 degrees, so that'll need to be fastened eventually. The extruded metals that make up the door frame and hinges are -7, -8, so they are leaking out a lot more heat than the panels, but nothing to be alarmed about. The furnace on the inside obviously here, and the ductwork is just laying there temporarily on the floor. It's sitting at 90 degrees. The aluminum step boxes are at -9, so I may make a plug for those. And then the walls are at +6, and a majority of the interior contents are between 10 and 15, which is perfectly acceptable at 20 degrees below. So I'm really happy with that. We'll leave it at that for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next time.